with all the latest news from across non-league football. Online at backofthenetsouth.co.uk and broadcasting live on YouTube, Twitter and Facebook. This is Back of the Net News.
Women's Super League 2 will be renamed as the FA Women's Championship from next season, as part of a restructure of the English Women's Leagues. The changes bring an end to the era of the Women's Premier League, which began in 1992 and was originally the name of the top flight, before the WSL was introduced in 2011. Phil Neville remains undefeated after 2 games in the She Believes Cup, after a 4-0 win over France and a 2-2 draw with Germany. These results see the 3 Lionesses atop of the tournament standings, with a superior goal difference over the United States. Tonight, England take on the United States at the Orlando City Stadium, with a 7 p.m. kickoff. The largest ever collection of women's football memorabilia and historical items has been acquired by the National Football Museum in preparation for an exhibition expected to be open this year. The items in the collection date as far back as 1869, the same decade as the founding of the Men's Football Association, and continue throughout the 50-year ban of the women's game and into the modern era. West Ham ladies progressed to the final of the WPL Plate after a 3-0 win over Hull City ladies. 2-goal hero Kerry Welthall could not contain her delight, stating, "There's no other way to say it, I'm just absolutely buzzing," about the prospect of more silverware. The Irons will take on either Luton Town ladies or Fylde ladies. That's the latest from the Back of the Net newsroom with me, Adam Wilmot.
It's 7 p.m. on Wednesday evening. It's time for the biggest non-league football debate in the country. Search official BOTN and get involved with tonight's show.
So very good evening and welcome to Back of the Net this Wednesday night. A really special show for you this evening. We celebrate International Women's Day, which is tomorrow, and our guests reflect that. We've got Curtis, Charlie, Harry and Paul in the studio from Worthing, Whiteleaf, Crawley ladies teams, and also we have interviews with Stuart, who's the chairman of Lewis Football Club, talking all about the ladies arm of their team. And we also speak to Charlotte as well, who's heavily involved in Margate Football Club as their marketing manager. Plenty to discuss on the show tonight. Can't wait to get into it. And don't forget, you can get your thoughts to us, official BOTN across social media. Adam is waiting for your tweets tonight.
Have your say. Get in touch on social media. Just search official BOTN.
So very good evening and welcome to the show tonight. A special, as we said, on women's football. Delighted that we have plenty of guests in the studio. Very good evening to you guys. We'll come to you in a moment. Tonight we celebrate International Women's Day that is tomorrow. And what better place to start than talking all about the football in the women's game. It's been a hugely successful last few years. 3rd place for England at the FIFA Women's World Cup. The record 2.4 million people that watched England play on the BBC in the semi-final of that FIFA Women's World Cup. 5th for England's women's team in the world rankings. It all seems to be going gloriously. 9 teams as well now, including the England women's deaf team. Let's get into talking to tonight's guests. And it's a really good evening to Curtis, Charlie, Harry and Paul. Paul, let's start with you. Crawley Wasps, another successful season. I remember that you came on the show a couple of years ago and you were a growing club then, been established since 1991 and doing a hell of a job, and now only a couple of promotions away from really being in one of the big leagues in women's football.
Well, absolutely, Ben. And first of all, welcome to all your listeners and thank you very much for having us on the show this evening. You're absolutely right. This season is going superbly well at the present time. I'm going to touch wood. We are sitting top of the London and South East Regional Premier League. We've got 4 games left of the season, and barring some very poor performances, we should secure promotion to what we currently know is the FA Women's Premier League, to the South East Division. And next year will be known as the FA Women's National League, I think Division 1. So our first team ladies moved to what I would call the sub-elite level of the ladies game. It's been, as I said, a super season. We're also facing Lewis in the County Cup in 2 weeks' time, which will be a big challenge. They've got a very strong side. On Sunday, we also reached the final of our League Cup. So at the moment, all of the objectives that we set for the season are being achieved. And as a club overall, we're able to field 3 ladies teams every week. And Curtis just played against Worthing played against our ladies reserve side on Sunday. And our youth structure again is increasingly it's getting stronger and stronger. And our under 16 girls played tremendously well in the final against the Eastbourne girls on Sunday in their version of the County Cup final, just coming short 4 goals to 3. It was a fabulous game, and a credit to both sides and a credit to ladies football. So we're on the up at the moment. It's a fantastic place to be at Crawley Wasps present time.
And you mentioned Curtis. Curtis, very good evening to you from Worthing. Not having a bad season yourself either.
Yeah, good evening, and thanks for having us on the show as well on behalf of Worthing ladies. Again, having a good season so far, but the most important thing for us is now that we just maintain it till the end of the season, keep taking each game as it comes, just like Paul, I'm sure, is doing. No one's getting too far ahead of themselves, and we're just hoping that we can keep our standards high and keep aiming high, and hopefully by the end of the season we can achieve what we set out to do when I took over. And
you took the managerial role just before Christmas. How have you found that experience at Worthing?
It's been an interesting one. Joining a club halfway through the season when they were already having immediate success, I would say. Second place when I took over. They were, I think, second round of the Cup. So it was a good position for me to take over when I came in. I was really lucky to have good people surrounding me, so it was really easy for me to kind of step into that environment. I was eased in over the first couple of weeks, and then, we really tried to hit the ground running. But like I say, I was kind of lucky that the setup when I came in was so strong, so just picked it up.
We'll mention that cup final as well that you've just reached the final of. Did you set many targets for yourself when you came in before Christmas?
I suppose my main target was just kind of, let's be competitive, let's maintain where they started, let's maintain where the high standards were at the beginning, and if we can push for promotion, let's push for promotion. I mean, when I came in, I think we were 6 points off of Kent, who are currently leading the way, but they had 1 or 2 games in hand over us, so it was always going to be difficult trying to catch them. But like I said, we're just taking each game as it comes. With the semi-final win on Sunday against Paul's reserves team, sorry about that, Paul. It was good. It was really great, and we didn't set out to kind of win any cup competitions, but you certainly will take it, and I'm looking forward to it because it's my first ever one as a manager. So,
and finally, a very good evening to Charlie and Harry from Whiteleaf. Lovely to have you here with us this evening, and also it's beginning to be, continuing to be a successful season for you as well.
Yeah, good evening. Thank you for having us. We're only in our second season of being a club, so we've made big steps in a small amount of time. Won the league last season, the Surrey County Division, went up to the Greater London Women's Premier League, and at the moment we're top, a point clear of QPR. And again, like everyone else has said, if we can finish our last 2 games strongly, without any big mistakes, then we'll go on to win that division and jump another step of football. So in 2 seasons, that's a great achievement for us.
The first question that I have to ask you is, having formed so recently and had such success, was that always the plan, and how did you get that success so quickly?
Well, we sat down 2 seasons ago and we said that we wanted to do a women's team, and we wanted to see how it went. We didn't realise how successful it would be in such a short period of time, so I can't sit here and say that we knew it would happen, but we've worked very, very hard to make it happen, and we're in a great position now to finish the season strongly.
And Harry, you're the assistant at the club, and obviously we've established a great period of success. How have you found since it was formed?
It's been a delight to work with the girls. They've been fantastic all the way through from the first day that we've taken over. We set out a plan and what we wanted to do. We had a vision. Just going back to what Charlie said, we didn't think that it would come around this quickly. But fortunately it has, and to be honest with you, it's all down to the hard work of the girls and also the club as a whole for giving us that opportunity to establish the first women's team at Whiteleaf. And we, like Charlie said, we really just want to go into these last 2 games where potentially, if we have no slip-ups, we can jump one more step of football. So it's something we're definitely looking forward to.
I want to start tonight by talking about how you encourage and get women's football growing and how you get players involved. And obviously there's a huge success around the table this season. We're at different levels as well, with Crawley Wasp being established for so long, and obviously you guys at Whiteleaf being relatively new. But how hard is it to attract players and get players involved in the women's game? Or is that becoming increasingly easier season upon season?
I think that's a really good question. One of the biggest challenges as a club is when you've got a really good squad of players is to keep hold of those players, and it's to create then a culture within your club where it feels extremely professional for the ladies. The setup is professional, and hopefully if you can create that type of environment and stimulus and create the motivation, you'll keep your players. And not just that, I think when you're being successful as a side, and I think the other guys would agree, that again is a major source of motivation. Whether or not it's in your youth structure or whether or not it's in your ladies section. And, we're having a fair bit of success, so that does make the job a little bit easier. But it's not always been like that. We've had times in the past where, as a first team, a few years back, we'd had a good season, then we had a couple of perhaps mediocre seasons, and that's tougher. But we have a very clear vision for the club, and we communicate that to the ladies. They know we're a very, very ambitious club. We're successful, and as I said, if you can create a culture around that, it's a great recipe. And
that success makes, as you said, makes it so easy then to have that conveyor belt of players wanting to play for you. Yeah, absolutely. I think if you're being successful, we all know that promoting our reputation as clubs is equally important. I mean, the women's game, as we know, is growing. It's developing. I mean, there's a revolution going on at the present time. Social media is a major part of supporting that revolution, and it's really important for clubs like ourselves, and I'm sure exactly the same for Curtis and the guys from Whiteleaf, that it's important that you promote the club well on social media as well as through the traditional media. And if you're having success, you can then be very attractive to players from other clubs who perhaps have played at a higher level. And certainly our aspiration is to keep every player that we've got, to improve the players that have been with us a long time, and there's some fantastic things that have gone on with respect to that. But it's also then to be able to attract players who perhaps maybe a couple of years ago wouldn't have considered your club, but because they see of the developments, the professionalism, what's going on, the success, they're prepared to come and sign. And that's been one of a real trend for us this year. We've made some fantastic signings from players who have played at a higher level. And we've got players in the squad at the moment who've been playing Women's Super League that see a club in Crawley as a super club to continue their football. And Curtis, obviously new into Worthing. Have you been blessed to come in with a club that are easily able to attract plenty of women?
Yeah, I mean, the biggest positive about Worthing as a club in general is that those that have been there, I'm sure, Paul, you've probably been there being local, they've got great facilities. And in terms of the support around the club, George Dow, the owner, is an absolutely fantastic guy. He's really doing everything he can to try and push the women's side, which is, as you all know, it's what we all want. And we just want to expand, like you said, our profiles, and we just want to build ourselves within the field. Really lucky to have come into a club as good as Worthing, and hopefully we can just keep building the women's and keep building our profile and line it up with the men's.
And a really good question for you, starting your team so recently. How difficult was that to attract players when you don't even have a team?
Well, we started from absolute scratch. There was nothing there, so we had to form a team, and it was really a lot of the friends of the captain that is our captain at Whiteleaf Ladies. She did a lot of the recruiting. Myself and Harry hadn't worked in women's football. We didn't know a lot about women's football, so we didn't have connection to be able to rope people in to try and play for us. So we had to leave it to her, and she done an amazing job because she's built a good foundation of players there. We've taken it on from that with the coaching sessions and training, but it's difficult to. It was very, very difficult. It's getting a lot easier now. Like Paul said, when you're successful, people want to be around success. So we are successful, and we do get a lot of people wanting to play for us now. It wasn't so much like that in the first season, but we've even had to fight, teams that want to come for our players that play at a very, very good level. That's something that we found quite difficult for teams coming and looking at our players and just wanting to take them. It's difficult, but I think we're doing well for where we are.
And tonight isn't just about talking about those players in the women's game. It's talking about referees, female referees, and of course females in the football game in general. I'm going to bring Remy in now. Obviously, Remy, we're in the media, and you're female within that media spectrum, and you were instrumental in creating Back of the Net, and the importance to you of women getting involved in the game is something that you really believe in.
Oh, massively. I think there's always a perspective that we're still trying to change, as positive as some of the things that the guys are talking about now. It's still in transition. Whether you're a ref, whether you're a broadcast, whether you're a player, whether you're a coach, but it's getting there. With Back of the Net, it's been a massive learning curve. Football's been something that's been close to my heart since I was little, and to kind of come into the industry, it was hard as someone in media, because people kind of like, oh, are you sure? You're a girl, like, do you even know the offside rule? And you kind of deal with all those sorts of things, and then you get into it, you get a love for it, and you just want to keep powering it on. And it's one of those things that I feel that women should be massively part of, involved. If it's something they enjoy, then play. If it's something that enjoy but not so much playing, get involved in coaching or in media, and grow it, be part of the growth of it. You can only grow it if you're part of it, so get involved.
Do you see, over the last few years, having taken this show on in 3 years, have you seen a change for the success of the England ladies team? Have you seen a real change in perhaps that attitude of women being involved in the game and how it's grown?
Well, I think with what we're trying to do with Back of the Net as a whole and promote non-league football, it's that kind of Jamie Vardy effect in that sense for non-league, and it's also that success of the Lionesses for the women's game. It's something that we are trying to, actively engage more with. But I think it's kind of growing those niche markets, because football's football. Referencing Luke's interview the other day, it doesn't matter what level you're at, what gender you are, a game of football is a game of football. You have the discussions with your friends, you have your coaching, you have your enjoyment, you have the satisfaction. So I think it should be, all on the same level, and that's something that we're doing with non-league, and now hopefully we'll venture into covering the women's game.
We mentioned it wasn't just about the players, and earlier on I caught up with Charlotte, who is the Margate marketing manager. And she was telling me about her time in the Football League, and has since dropped down to non-league to work with Margate. So your role at Margate is in the marketing commercial area?
Yeah, that's right. So I kind of look after all of the marketing and communications activities. So part of my portfolio at the start of the season was to look at fan engagement, because the football club had obviously been relegated, and in previous years had a bit of a checkered relationship, lots of ups and downs, and the board of directors were really keen to get stability off the pitch and on it. So I was asked to kind of come on board to come up with different initiatives, obviously to help boost attendances and to introduce some ideas that I had from my experience within the professional game into the Bostik League. And we've had a really good season off the pitch. We've been able to, with the support of the board and the management, put together some really great family events. So it's a really exciting project.
So how do you find the difference then between the professional game and then coming to this level of football which is effectively part of the part-time game.
Yeah, what I must say is I've been astounded by sort of the scheduling for the non-league game. I mean, I must take my hat off to our players and players in this league with the volume of fixtures that they have alongside, full-time jobs. Players have had to take half days and then they'll be up again for work tomorrow. So I think that's the biggest admiration I have for non-league. And having come from the professional game, I really like the sort of intimacy of non-league, the connection between the fans and the players. It's a lot closer, and I think that's something really, really special that non-league can provide.
Did you always aspire to work in football?
Well, I think probably like a lot of young girls and women, I didn't necessarily realise there were roles in football because you just didn't see a lot of women out and about, and to a certain degree you still don't see a lot. When I'm going from non-league ground to non-league ground, there's not a lot of women working in the game, but it was only when I remember seeing Jackie Oatley commentating on a game on Match of the Day that I realised that potentially this was something that I could go into. Sports journalism was the beginning of the journey, volunteering at Gillingham Ladies, and then I just realised how many exciting career paths there were involved in the game, and having got a degree and that experience at a young age, that I could lend that expertise, so to speak, to the professional game.
You mentioned that obviously looking up to people and saying that there is an opportunity for women in the game, and I think we've seen a real shift over the last few years, the last 5 or 6 years, in women in the game and women's football in general. But do you find it still there's challenges that you have to overcome, and perhaps things that is still difficult for you in your role?
Yeah, to a certain degree. I think there's challenges when you work in a male-dominated industry, but I think there's also lots of opportunity. I mean, when I left Gillingham, I set up a sort of charitable scheme called the Eighth Wonder Programme, which was all about getting kind of 14 to 21-year-old girls into careers in football, because there is so much opportunity. And I think, we've seen with clubs that introduce women to their board, you get another sort of set of skills and expertise, and that diversity helps you as a football club. So I certainly think there's a few hurdles, but as the game's growing and you're seeing more women in the game, there's a sort of wider acceptance.
And finally, I have to ask what your aspirations now are. Where would you like to see yourself in 5 years?
In 5 years' time, I don't know, it'd be great to be kind of developing my skills from a sort of business development point of view. Certainly here at Margate, there's so much opportunity commercially going on, and I'm learning lots of new skills with our general manager. He's, introducing me to lots of different things. So potentially, becoming a general manager or CEO of a football club would be something I'd love to aspire to do. Do
you support a club? You can say this quietly if you like, apart from Margate, of course, but who's your team?
Well, as a little girl, my dad always used to take me to Gillingham, so it was a dream come true for me when the chairman asked me to become his head of marketing and communications, and being able to work at Priestfield Stadium every day was a real honour, and I loved working for the football club that I supported as a little girl. And so yeah, they're the team that I always look for after I look for Margate's results, of course.
Back of the net, where it matters.
Yeah, fascinating interview with Charlotte, who works in marketing at Margate. So many questions out of that interview. Paul, I'm going to start with you. She mentioned the hurdles there, talked about the hurdles that still are here. And we're here today celebrating International Women's Day tomorrow. We're talking all about women's football. And Remy's the only one around the table that's female, and you're representing your clubs, but we're still in a male-dominated in the women's game. And how is that so?
Well, I mean, that again, I think that's a really interesting topic of conversation. I mean, as a club, Crawley Wasps is an independent all-girls and ladies club. So we are not affiliated to a men's side, and our vision at the moment is to stay with that status. Now, with that, there are pros and there are cons, without question. My personal view is that I do feel. I mean, as I said, I go back to this point about a revolution in ladies' football. I think a lot of the hurdles, a lot of the prejudice, I think, are changing. And the evidence base for me is here in front of you, where you've got historically men's clubs that are now fully embracing the ladies' game, a ladies' team. It's happening at Whiteleaf, it's happening at Worthing, it's happening at Lewis, it's happening at Crystal Palace. You can just name it. And in the early days, what used to happen with those clubs is they'd let the ladies' side use the name, but would not give them any access to facilities, to resources. It was all completely separate. But that's changing rapidly. Clubs are seeing the value They're seeing the change that's going on in the women's game. They're seeing the value of it. They're actually seeing that actually, although it's a very different game, the standards that women are achieving in football is quite outstanding. You can't compare female and male tennis players, but both the female and male games, there are outstanding athletes, and it's exactly the same in the ladies' game. And I think more and more clubs are recognising that, and hence why they are now making resources available, sharing facilities, and obviously, what's going on at Lewis with the equality drive is taking that. It's really publicised that very, very strongly. So there are still hurdles. There will always be, because it always takes a time for cultures to change and opinions to change. But I would say they are changing at pace in my experience, and I think Worthing and also Whiteleaf are clear examples of men's clubs fully embracing the ladies' sides.
When we talk about how long this is, it's a really interesting point, how long it will take to change. And we're sat around this table, and I'm sure there will be people watching this, hopefully really interested in it, but we'll be asking that question to why we're celebrating women's football and the coaches are males. And that could have been in any number of clubs that we got in contact with. Is that something that needs to change? Should it change? And will equality not be there until that changes, Curtis?
I mean, it is a difficult topic, but for me, when I look at it, I think if there are people that are interested in getting involved and trying to push the women's game, it doesn't matter whether they are male or female. If there's people that want to boost the profile of the game, that want to offer their skills, their abilities to grow this great game, like Paul said, it is a revolution. I, for one, am a massive part of it. We all are. If there are females out there, which I know for a fact there are some great coaches out there, there's some great physios out there, it's just a matter of finding them and making everyone feel like there is opportunities to get involved with a club. There's a lot of independent businesses that go on and stuff, which a lot of coaches might work for on staff, certainly community stuff, but it's a matter of getting them within clubs and things like that. And like you said, trying to unify it. And I mean, I've worked with some great female coaches over the last few years at some of the clubs I've worked at. So for me, the whole gender thing, it can get frustrating because I think there's so much talent out there. I don't really look at it as male or female.
But Charlie, I'm going to come to you when and I take that point on board, but are we still not in a situation, you mentioned there about there's so much talent, but we're still not seeing it at the top levels of a club in the coaching and management positions? And I'm going to throw this one out there to you, the appointment of Phil Neville as the England ladies manager.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting appointment from the national team. In my opinion, there's lots of, especially at WSL, there's a lot of good managers, female managers out there that I'm surprised didn't get the England job. I thought Emma Hayes at Chelsea would be a really good choice from the work she's done there. So I was surprised. But I think, referring it back to our setup, I think if a lot of Bostik teams decide to do a women's team, you grow that game at your club. So not only do the players come through, you get female coaches are attracted to the team. I think players that maybe have come to the end of their playing career, they want to go into coaching, and then we can try and put them through their coaching badges. So you're creating it's not a club within a club, but it's a environment, it's an atmosphere, it's a group of players that will travel together, go together, and you attract more to that as well as you go along.
Should we be saying then that actually it doesn't matter that we've got this equality thing, males in charge of women's team doesn't matter, but should we then see more females coaches and managers in male clubs?
You happy for me to respond to that?
Absolutely.
Two things. First of all, I think in 5 years' time, you will see far more female managers and female coaches. It's just a transition now that the ladies' game is going. You just will. It will be, but it will take time. It's because historically, the ladies' game is what actually it is. I mean, it is a very old game. but it will just take time. But with the professionalising of the game, it's going to happen. It will attract more and more females into coaching roles, and as the guys have already said, there's some absolutely top talent out there. And as more and more get interested, it can only be good for the game. With respect to more and more female coaches working within the men's game, bring it on. Absolutely. If you look at the business analogy, the evidence base says that some of the most effective boards of companies are ones that have gender diversity and are well represented by females. That should be no different in football clubs, and I think it's only a matter of time. And going back to the Phil Neville issue, I think the concern there was the process that was gone through transparent enough. There probably would have been a whole number of excellent female coaches who could have done that job. Phil Neville's been appointed now, but he's now his number two. He's a very successful, very well respected ex-England player, and so for me that's a fantastic combination of a female and a male team working together to guide the national team.
We talk about women getting involved in the game in all areas, and we've touched upon coaching and management. I was recently on a UEFA B course with Surrey FA, and there are 24 spaces on the UEFA B course, and 3 of those spaces were taken up by female coaches. That's something, and I want to put this one to you, Remy, that's something that perhaps we're looking to see that ratio develop. And do you think it's still because there is still a lack of confidence maybe in females going for those elite coaching courses as elite positions?
Yeah, I think there's just it's just part of the transition. I'm sure that figure will continue to rise, and women will continue to grow into the game. I think there is probably a confidence problem. I think it would be difficult for a women to perhaps, for me, what put me off when I was asked to do the refereeing course was, do you know what, I don't know how I'm going to approach a situation when there's 22 men on a pitch. How am I going to manage that situation? And I do think it's something that I probably could do, but it's something that frightens the life out of me, like to be in control of that and to kind of go up against the natural sort of fire that happens, the back chat ref skit, to then go up against, oh, you're a woman now in this situation. It must be difficult. So I think it's going to be definitely something that's going to ease. It's going to be something that's not going to happen overnight. We're not going to see loads of women reffing Premier League games and managers and all sorts of things, but it's definitely something that I'd love to see in my lifetime. If there was a female manager in the Premier League, like, unreal. But I think it's just something that it is, historically it hasn't been a women's sport. Adam mentioned in the news about the 50 years where it was banned, so it's something it's definitely in a period of transition, and I'm sure it will filter down to being reflective, equal gender, no biases in it, but right now, this moment in time, there is a massive, it's a men's sport, and it's getting there, and it will get there, I'm sure.
Plenty more to talk about on the show tonight as we celebrate International Women's Day tomorrow, and you can get your thoughts into his official BOTN across social media. Right now we're going to do our non-league quiz. We do this every week on the show. Tonight is no exception. You've all got your pens and paper at the ready to play. We've got 5 questions for you, so let's get on with tonight's non-league football quiz.
The non-league football quiz.
Before we start, are we all feeling quite confident ahead of this? How's our non-league knowledge?
Not good.
Horrendous. I'm hoping it's about the ladies' game and not the men's game.
Right, let's find out.
Question 1.
Comedian Tim Vine supports which non-league team? Don't worry, I'm going to give you 3 options. Comedian Tim Vine supports which non-league team? Is it A, Fisher Athletic, B, Sutton United, or C, Cadbury Athletic? Is it Fisher Athletic, Sutton United, or Cadbury Athletic? Which team does comedian Tim Vine support?
Question 2.
England Lionesses recently played Germany in the She Believes Cup. What was the score? And a bonus for naming the scorers. You can get A couple of bonus points if you are feeling confident tonight. England Lionesses recently played Germany in the She Believes Cup. What was the score?
Question 3.
Injury-prone frontman Daniel Sturridge started his career at which non-league club? Is it A, Mickleover Sports, B, Rugby Town FC, or C, Cadbury Athletic? Mickleover Sports, Rugby Town FC, or Cadbury Athletic. Which non-league club did Daniel Sturridge start his career at?
Question 4.
Newport play in the Wessex Premier Division, whereas Guernsey play in the Bostik South. But which island has the bigger population? Newport, of course, the Isle of Wight, play in the Wessex Premier Division, whereas Guernsey play in the Bostik South. But which one of those islands has the bigger population? Always like to have some sort of geography-ish based question in the non-league football quiz.
Question 5.
And the final question tonight is, which Bostik League team play the closest to Gatwick Airport? Which Bostik League team play the closest to Gatwick Airport?
Is there any clues with that one?
Shall I give some clues?
There's 3 possible answers, I believe. East Grinstead is one.
South Park and Horsham.
And Horsham.
I wasn't going to give clues. I felt that was too easy.
It's not as easy.
But
as
it's fine, Adam. You've taken over and given them. It's all right.
I forget that's not an easy question, that.
You've definitely got to think about it. It was like when we had our one close to Hampton Court. That was a real curveball. There's so many teams.
It isn't
in that
what
vicinity.
I thought it was going to be.
It's
Don't say that either.
For me, that was too easy. But Adam's given you 3 clues, so hopefully you'll get that one right. We're going to come back with the answers to the non-league quiz after this.
You're listening to Back of the Net, powered by Promote UK. We're really good at what we do.
Times are changing. We now live in a digital world where 9 out of 10 people use the internet to look for local goods and services. Whether in front of a computer at home or on a mobile phone on the go, people expect to find what they want, when they want, quickly and easily. The question is, can your business be found? At Promote UK, we specialise in getting local businesses found online. One highly affordable package will give your business a stunning mobile responsive website, which we guarantee to get to the first page of Google and keep it there. And we take care of everything: copywriting, design, hosting. We even offer unlimited amends all year round for no extra charge. So, whilst you're busy focusing on your business, we're busy making sure it can be found online all year round. Start your Google Page 1 journey today with a free online health check by visiting promoteUKLimited.com. Promote UK. We're really good at what we do.
From Premiership to Playground, MH Goals has everything you need for an outstanding football match, including aluminium and steel football goals, nets, line marking machines, team shelters, boot wipers, and much more. Buy with confidence direct from the manufacturer with great prices available across our whole range of sports equipment. What's more, we offer fantastic discounts for all FA affiliated clubs. We pride ourselves on British manufacturing. We make all our football goals here in the UK and conform to the latest British and European safety standards. So call MH Goals direct on 01502 711 298 or visit our online store at mhgoals.com.
Are you a budding footballer sitting your GCSEs next summer, wondering what to do next? Want to play football while studying for qualifications that will get you into university? Dorking Wanderers Football Club are now recruiting for their football academy for 2018-2019. Based at their brand new state-of-the-art Meadowbank Stadium, you'll be playing in the National Conference Youth Alliance against the best clubs in the area each week, as well as the prestigious FA Youth Cup. You'll be studying BTEC Level 3 qualifications, equivalent to 3 A-levels, alongside professional coaching from our UEFA qualified coaches. For information on trials and open evenings, visit dorkingwanderers.com/academy or email academy@dorkingwanderers.com.
Head to backofthenetsouth.co.uk tomorrow morning for video highlights and full match reaction of today's games. Back to your favourite non-league football show, powered by Promote UK. We're really good at what we do. Back of the Net, where it matters.
So welcome back to tonight's show. We're about to give you the answers to the non-league football quiz. We all did all right with that. Managed to get answers for every question. Yeah, pretty confident around the room. Let's get on with the answers.
This is the non-league football quiz. Question 1.
First question tonight was comedian Tim Vine supports which non-league team? Gave you 3 options: Fisher Athletic, Sutton United or Cadbury Athletic. Paul, let's start with you.
Thanks very much, Ben. Appreciate that. I was hoping you were going to ask me the answer to the second question, but I've gone for Fisher.
Okay,
Fisher
Harry?
Athletic.
Gone for Sutton United.
Curtis?
I've gone Sutton United as well.
And Charlie?
Sutton United as well.
And we'll get the scores in a moment.
Question 2.
England Lionesses recently played Germany in the She Believes Cup. What was the score and the bonus points for naming the scorers? Paul, we'll go around this well. The time start with you.
The score was 2-2. I saw the second goal, which I believe was Ellen White. I was so busy watching the website for back of the net that I missed the early part of the game. But I've got
that doesn't give you points, by the way.
Blast. But I'm going to go for Millie Bright.
Okay, Harry.
I've gone for 2-2. The second one was Ellen White, and I've gone for the first one, Frank Herbie.
Okay, and Curtis.
I've gone 2-2. I've gone Ellen White, and I've gone Jodie Taylor, goal scoring machine. So I'm hoping that she'll put it out of the bag for me.
And finally, Charlie.
2-2. Jodie Taylor and Millie Bright.
Okay, plenty of answers for the bonus points as well.
Question 3.
Injury-prone frontman Daniel Sturridge started his career at which non-league team? Was it Mickleover Sports, Rugby Town FC or Cadbury Athletic? Paul, what did you get?
Well, I'm trying to work out quite where Cadbury Athletic play. I've got a feeling it's probably somewhere around the Midlands, because I'm trying to match Daniel Sturridge's sort of accent with these clubs and their geographic locations.
I thought you were going for that because it was Cadbury's World in the Midlands.
Yes, absolutely. So I'm going to go for Cadbury because it was in the first question. So I thought if it's going to come up twice, it's got to be the answer to one. So I'm plugging for Daniel Sturridge and Cadbury Athletic.
Harry, what did you go for?
I ain't got a clue, but I've had a shot in the dark and gone for Mickleover Sport.
Curtis?
Again, I knew it was based around the Midlands from Birmingham area, but have not got a clue about all 3 of them, so I've gone Cadbury.
And Charlie?
I've gone Rugby Town.
Okay. I can tell you that the answer is Cadbury Athletic.
Trick question.
I thought it was a joke.
God, thank God I've got one right.
I wanted to give that one out because it was one of those ones where it was a geography question, and I think that we like to throw a couple of. We've got another one coming up that's a bit of a geography question. Question 1. We're going to get the scores in a moment, but the comedian was a huge Sutton United fan, and I want to leave question 2 to the end because there's plenty of bonus points on offer, so we'll leave that one and move on to question 4.
Question 4.
Newport, the Isle of Wight, play in the Wessex Premier Division, whereas Guernsey play in the Bostik South. But which island has the bigger population, Paul?
Good question. Good question.
Thank you. It wasn't me that wrote it.
No. I mean, bearing in mind that Guernsey has a thriving offshore financial services sector, which obviously needs staffing, I'm going for Guernsey, even though it's probably only about 6 miles by 6 miles.
Insightful.
In size.
And what are you going for, Harry?
Same with Paul, going with Guernsey.
Curtis?
Based on the fact that Guernsey's some financial offs, what was it?
Yeah. We can't say tax haven these days because it's not on the
Guernsey.
OECD list.
I've gone Guernsey.
I have no idea, so I've gone Newport.
Okay, the answer is Newport, the Isle of Wight.
Isle of Wight.
The island has a population
by a
of
long, yeah.
140,000 compared to Guernsey with just 63,000. So there we go.
We sound
there is more
intelligent
companies
anyway,
registered in Guernsey, though.
Absolutely.
All full of facts tonight about everything not related to football.
Specsavers are based in Guernsey, I can say that.
Final question tonight.
Question 5.
Which Bostik League team play closest to Gatwick Airport? We gave you 3 options of South Park, East Grinstead or Horsham. Paul, what did you come up with?
Well, that is a test as well, isn't it? This would be an embarrassing one to get wrong. I'm sort of... Horsham and East Grinstead, I think they're roughly around the same distance. I'm racking my brains thinking where South Park are based. But I'm going to go for South Park.
South Park.
South Park.
Horsham.
Okay, the answer was South Park, 5.4 miles. East Grinstead is 7.8 miles away, and Horsham, at the moment in Lancing they're playing, so it's 28.7 miles. I think that was maybe a bit of a trick question on the Horsham one.
Horsham still wouldn't have been the closest though, despite their ground share with Lancing.
Okay, let's go back to question 2, because this was the one that we came up with all sorts of bonus points. England Lionesses recently played Germany in the She Believes Cup. What was the score? I think we all got the score right. It was 2-2. And then the scorers, Adam?
Ellen White scored both, so it was a trick question, but everyone got Ellen White.
Okay, so 1 bonus point. Who was doing the scores? Adam, Remy?
I've got the scores, and we're going to have a tie-break question, Adam, so I'm going to put it out now. We've got a battle for the top spot. So in joint second place, we've got Harry and Charlie, still a double act in the quiz.
That's good.
And then joint top, so our tie is going to be between Paul and Curtis.
Okay, the rules here, Paul and Curtis, all you've got to do when I ask the question is say your name. Whoever says the name first will get the opportunity to answer. If you don't answer it right, then we'll go to the opposite person.
Good luck, Curtis.
Your question is, who won last year's Women's FA Cup?
Curtis.
Okay, Curtis.
Man City.
I don't have the answer, but I wanted to ask the question. Adam's going to find out the answer. I think it might have been Man City, though. Adam's just going to... This is a big thing as well, because to win the quiz, it's quite prestigious. We don't have a trophy, but you get to take that away with you for the rest of the year.
Yeah, they beat Birmingham in the final, didn't they? About 5-1, I think it was.
Is that what you were going to say?
Yes,
Man City?
absolutely. But I just thought that I'd let Curtis get it before
me. What's the answer, Adam?
I have the answer. Dramatic pause.
Was it 5-1?
It is Manchester City. Curtis has the
there
win.
We go. Round of applause for Curtis. Wins the quiz. It's the best part of the night. It is.
It's prestigious. Very prestigious.
Was it 5-1?
I don't know. It may well have been.
Can I get a bonus point for that?
Because we'd be in the same situation.
All right, exactly.
We need another
tie break, please.
Okay, we're going to move on in the show. Let us know how you got on official BOTN across social media. We're celebrating women's football for International Women's Day. Plenty of history around the day, and plenty of things to discuss on the show between now and 9 o'clock. So many talking points. One of the ones that I really want to talk about is the Women's World Cup, that we saw such a huge rise in people watching. We didn't win it, but came ever so close and were really unlucky in the end. That had such a dramatic effect on women coming into the game. Paul, did you really notice at your club the interest that you then got on the back of that?
I would say that I think with the World Cup of the Lionesses, when you've got a very, very successful national side, for football fans, it gives a very, very warm glow. And we can see the opposite of that, can't we, with the men's side at the present time. The Lionesses have been fantastically successful, not just in the World Cup, but in other competitions. And I think that was one of the major stimuluses for the revolution that's going on now in the game. I think it's created a lot of awareness of ladies football. Almost for the first time, you were seeing ladies games televised, and not just that. The English national team, together with the other teams, were showcasing just how technically adept and the quality of the ladies' talent. And I think that probably was initially a shock to a lot of people. It changed a lot of opinions, and for me, it's one of the major enablers to the change that's going on, and their continued success. And as we see more and more publicity around that, it will only attract more and more players, girls. Ladies into the game, and that together with the FA current strategy for the women's game, again, that's another major enabler.
And Curtis, we talk about growing football, but the history is fascinating. A lot of people, because of the rise in the women's game, know that the history stretches back as far as the men's game, and 50,000 spectators watched that match in 1920, and yet despite that, in 1921. The Football Association, of course, issued that ban that prevented women's teams from playing on grounds used by any of its members, which actually stayed in effect till 1971. We've really had to almost start again.
Yeah, you're right. It has basically been like starting a new platform. But I think, as we all know, the growing game is getting massive now. I mean, I, for one, remember watching almost every game of that World Cup, of the competition, and I remember the absolute heartbreak watching every single goal go in as they got knocked out, and I certainly wasn't the only one. And yeah, it's great to see so many people viewing it now, but I think the main problem is there that accessibility to watch women's games on TV and things like that. And I think it was the first time, certainly since I can remember, that there's been that access and there's that publicity around the competition where you can follow the team, you can follow the Lionesses, and you can really be a fan and support them. And it was really enjoyable up until the point they were knocked out, which is a shame.
Two key points were the formation of the Women's FA in 1969, and I guess more recently the creation of the Women's Super League, which we'll talk more about, and of course that the introduction of the 5-year plan that was launched with that aimed to improve the women's game, to put 3.5 million into the game, to bring broadcast and commercial rights that they've done, and also to grow the fan base and participation. That was a really key moment. We can talk about the introduction of the Women's FA in 1969, but more recently to bring a Women's Super League platform and really give it that platform that it deserved.
I mean, for me, the introduction of the Women's Super League has been, again, one of the. I mean, if you look below the national side, you then see the Women's Super League. Now, increasingly, we're seeing the games in the Women's Super League being shown on mainstream television. The more that happens, the more the fan base will build. And the more there will be the showcasing of the superb talent levels of ladies footballers at that level. So for me, that's been a big success. It's only up until it's now really that it's been, because initially it was run as we know, as a summer league, and I think the integration of it now into one pyramid is very, 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 very important. The only thing that I would say, as the game is changing and developing, is that it's so important that Women's Super League is not purely an exclusive club, where it is about money for entry, and if you don't have enough money, you can't enter that club. There must be genuine promotion and relegate. So there must be genuine movement up and down from that Women's Super League, and that is probably one of the concerns regarding all of the changes that are going on in the game. And we know that was very well publicised with the Yeovil ladies.
And that was going to come on to that, actually, that there is that restriction, the restructure in 2017, which means now you've got to apply to become a member.
Absolutely.
And also prove that you can attract a certain amount of fans, etc. And that's something that I guess doesn't mirror the men's game. And are there any particular reasons, and I'll come to you, Charlie, any particular reasons that you think that has been introduced?
Well, I think what Paul's saying is right. We're all sitting here because we're celebrating International Women's Day, which is football for everybody, and we should be making football for people that can afford to play football or can afford to raise the money to put their team in a position where they can play in the Super League. Yeovil's a great example of that. I think they had to do a lot of fundraising to get lots of backers.
They crowdfunded, didn't they?
Yeah, to try and play at that standard when they've worked so hard to get to that standard. So I agree with Paul. We can't make it for, like we're trying to make football for men as for women as well. We can't make it a rich and a poor thing. I think that's not right at all.
And Harry, I've got to bring you in to have your say on this as well. It is something that perhaps needs revisiting.
Yeah, I think so, definitely. If you look at now how that is going on, where it is becoming slightly about money. If you look at the men's game, I think it's getting to the point where, although more and more people are being attracted to it, in many cases some people are walking away from it as well, because there's many in the term old school type of people that are just looking at the money towards it. I think if you look at we just don't want to go down that route where it's all just purely about money. I think because then it will ruin it, and then that could potentially have knock-on effects, and people could stop playing purely because of that. So I think it's massively important that, like Charlie, like Paul have said, is that if a team deserves and works hard to get to that position, then they should be granted the opportunity to do it, and not just all about money.
Paul, is one of the restrictions in there because it is now a professional league and that you have to be able to have a professional full-time team?
Yeah, absolutely. That is, for me, the principal reason, because for some of the bigger clubs, there is still a significant investment that's needed to run a successful ladies' side. Certainly on a professional level, when you talk about facilities and access. I mean, you've got to take Manchester City. Okay, it's an incredibly rich club, and they've built a separate stadium for their ladies' side, because it's perhaps with the fan base at the moment, playing every game in a stadium that perhaps takes 50,000-60,000, and you've got 1,000 people watching, probably is not the right stage. But one would hope that perhaps in 5 years, 6 years' time, with the crowd numbers going up substantially, those types of facilities can be used.
Are enough people? We mentioned the broadcasting and the fact that this league is now full time and it's got the deal with the sports channels and BT Sport, but enough people watching it, enough people interested in it. We see Match of the Day for highlights, prominent time, BBC One. Is that something that has to change if we're fully going to integrate and have this balance? Should we not be seeing a women's Match of the Day?
Definitely. I mean, at the moment it's on at something like, isn't it, 12 o'clock on a Saturday or Sunday night. So, yeah. Wouldn't it be great if they had Match of the Days and they featured the men's game and they also featured the women's game in one single programme? That would go an enormous way to moving the women's game on even faster, because I mean the fan base that follow men's football with Match of the Day is enormous, and if you were then showcasing the women's game, which for me that's perfectly justified, it would seriously support the pace of change in the game.
And I guess even if there were arguments to say that the Match of the Day was focused on a certain league, there should at least be a women's version that's on at a suitable time. Midnight is no time to put it on, is it?
No, well, no one's going to watch it. So, and I think also we're talking about young girls getting into football. So the target audience that they should have aren't going to be able to watch that show. So I think what Paul's saying is, can we watch Premier League highlights and then can we have the Super League highlights after that? Yeah, why can't we do that? I think people would be pleasantly surprised with what they see. I think a lot of people have an idea of women's football that's not right, and I think the only way to change that is for them to watch tournaments, national tournaments, and to watch the top sides in the country.
There we go. Bit of a challenge for the BBC. Can you get the rights and stick it on before or after Match of the Day? Plenty more to talk about on the show tonight. Official BOTN across social media, and we'll be back after this.
You're listening to Back of the Net, powered by Promote UK. We're really good at what we do.
Times are changing. We now live in a digital world where 9 out of 10 people use the internet to look for local goods and services. Whether in front of a computer at home or on a mobile phone on the go, people expect to find what they want, when they want, quickly and easily. The question is, can your business be found? At Promote UK, we specialise in getting local businesses found online. One highly affordable package will give your business a stunning mobile responsive website, which we guarantee to get to the first page of Google and keep it there. And we take care of everything: copywriting, design, hosting. We even offer unlimited amends all year round for no extra charge. So, whilst you're busy focusing on your business, we're busy making sure it can be found online all year round. Start your Google Page One journey today with a free online health check by visiting promoteUKLimited.com. Promote UK. We're really good at what we do.
Are you looking for a little bit more than a good meal at a pub? The Half Moon is a hidden gem located in the picturesque village of Charlwood on the Surrey-Sussex borders. Proud of old traditions, this old English pub offers tasty fresh food with locally sourced ingredients, comfortable dining and traditional bar area, as well as a lovely garden for your enjoyment. Evening with friends or lunch with family, whatever the occasion, you can expect our friendly and welcoming staff to help. Half Moon Charlwood. Check out our Facebook page for upcoming events and live music.
Need to refuel? Whether you're heading home or away, get ahead of the game and refuel at Dorking's Service Centre. Dorking's local retailer of quality BP fuel, Costa coffee and food to go. Find us at the traffic lights close to Dorking Halls or at dorkingservicecentre.com.
From Premiership to Playground, MH Goals has everything you need for an outstanding football match, including aluminium and steel football goals, nets, line marking machines, team shelters, boot wipers and much more. Buy with confidence direct from the manufacturer with great prices available across our whole range of sports equipment. What's more, we offer fantastic discounts for all FA affiliated clubs. We pride ourselves on British manufacturing. We make all our football goals here in the UK and conform to the latest British and European safety standards. So call MH Goals direct on 01502 711 298 or visit our online store at mhgoals.com.
Head to backofthenetsouth.co.uk tomorrow morning for video highlights and full match reaction of today's games. Back to your favourite non-league football show, powered by Promote UK. We're really good at what we do. Back of the net, where it matters. With all the latest news from across non-league football. Online at backofthenetsouth.co.uk and broadcasting live on YouTube, Twitter and Facebook. This is Back of the Net News.
The top stories at 8 PM are as follows. Women's Super League 2 will be renamed as the FA Women's Championship from next season, as part of the restructure of the English Women's Leagues. The changes bring an end to the era of the Women's Premier League, which begun in 1992 and was originally the name of the top flight, before the WSL was introduced in 2011. Phil Neville remains undefeated after 2 games in the She Believes Cup, after a 4-0 win over France and a 2-2 draw with Germany. These results see the 3 Lionesses atop of the tournament standings, with a superior goal difference over the USA. Tonight, England take on the USA at the Orlando City Stadium with a 7 PM kickoff. The largest ever collection of women's football memorabilia and historical items has been acquired by the National Football Museum, in preparation for an exhibition expected to be opened this year. The items in the collection date as far back as 1869, the same decade as the founding of the Men's Football Association, and continue throughout the 50-year ban of the women's game and into the modern era. West Ham ladies progressed to the final of the WPL Plate after a 3-0 win over Hull City ladies. 2-goal hero Heather Wellthall could not contain her delight, stating, "There's no other way to say it, I'm just absolutely buzzing about the prospect of more silverware." The Irons will take on either Luton Town ladies or Fylde ladies in the next round. That's the latest from the Back of the Net newsroom with me, Adam Wilmot.
So welcome back to the show tonight. Plenty more to talk about between now and 9 o'clock. Plethora of guests in the studio to talk all about women's football as we celebrate International Women's Day. Some fantastic facts around women's football. 259 entries into this year's Women's FA Cup. Over 100,000 women and girls playing affiliated club football in over 5,900 teams. And there are over 900 qualified female referees now in the game, which is a fantastic stat. Remy, we were talking about you training as a referee. Over 900 females do it. It's an impressive stat, isn't it?
No, it is good. It's one of those that you think, oh wow, that is quite a figure. But then if you compare that to perhaps the men qualification, I guess it will be that ratio where it is completely unequal. But it's a figure that surprised me, and it's good. So maybe one day I'll become Rem the referee.
We should just go back to the point we were talking about TV coverage of the women's game, and we did make the point during the ad break that actually this She Believes Cup is on the red button.
Yeah, it was something that Adam mentioned to me because we were obviously doing a lot of prep for this show and getting into it and following Phil Neville's story. So it's something we've been following, and I was like, Adam, I just don't know how to watch it. And he was like, oh, it's on red button. It was a really good game, and I missed it. So it's disappointing that it's not on mainstream programming channeling. That something that probably would get a lot of interest if people were more aware of where they could watch it.
Earlier on in the show, we spoke to Charlotte, who's the marketing manager at Margate Football Club, and she was talking about how the challenges of getting non-league teams to interest fans. We're talking tonight all about women's football. How difficult a challenge is it, Remy, to get fans along to women's games?
Well, I think clubs that are led by their male teams are trying to actively have incentives going with their season tickets and things like that. But I think this is one to put to the managers, how they market their team and do they work with their men's teams and independently as Paul is a standalone club. So I think there are initiatives there, like I've seen, free admission to women's games if you're a season ticket holder or those sorts of things, and a lot of women's don't charge on the gate. So one for you guys. I
Curtis,
think.
We'll start with you at Worthing. Obviously, a successful men's team. I think it was 1,400 people that watched their game against Billericay last weekend. Is any of those fans coming to the women's game?
Yeah, our last game that we had at home was against Chichester, I believe, in the Cup quarter-final. We had, I think there was about 6 or 7 of the regular men's supporters that come down and actually did support us. The girls particularly noticed it when they walked out of the tunnel before the game and kind of turned around. They heard a few loud voices up in the stands, and it's really nice to have a little bit of an atmosphere. But like you said, it's just about us growing and how can we keep maintaining the level of support from people like that want to come down and watch us, but how can we also raise it and grow it and eventually have hundreds and 200s, and like you said, like the men, what a fantastic achievement to have 1,400 people come down to a game at that level of the men's game. We just like to replicate that however we can, and hopefully we can all come up with strategies to do that. We can all share ideas and grow the game together. I think that's the most important thing.
Did you find it difficult introducing a new team to suddenly attract supporters?
Yeah, Whiteleaf is obviously known for our first team, and we've had challenges. We've from the start we've tried to use social media, to use Twitter, and we've picked some supporters up from Twitter. Also, some of the guys that go to the first team games come to our games. We played West Ham and the Isthmian Cup semi-final at Whiteleaf, and we had 100 people there, which was so good for us. In our league games, we maybe have how many 10 people there? Maybe sometimes less than 10 people. So to have 100 people there supporting the girls gave them a little bit more, 10% more. So it's challenging, but I think, like we said about the top level, if people come and watch it, they'd be quite pleasantly surprised at what the players can do, what our players can do.
Paul, for you, obviously, we've mentioned the success over the last few years. Have you seen a rise in people coming to watch?
I was talking about previously being an independent all-ladies and girls club and not being affiliated to a men's club. So we don't have a men's fan base that we can tap into, and there's some excellent examples of clubs that have really successfully sort of tapped into that men's side, and it's also worth noting. Remember the last round of the FA Cup, both Chichester, and Lewis were in the Lewis had nearly 1,000 people at their match with Everton, and Chichester had 1,300 people there at that game, and that is absolutely tremendous. Now, both of those clubs marketed those events, and what you want that to become the norm. For us as a club, it is a big challenge, and I would say that certainly next season we've got to do a lot more to raise the profile of the club within Crawley, because Crawley does not have an elite ladies side. It will have a sub-elite ladies side next season in Crawley Wasp, because we are the most senior ladies side. And one of our objectives in our long-term vision is for our side to be much better supported by the citizens of Crawley, because at the moment, like these guys, we get very few through the gate. So that's a big objective for us to be, as the women's game develops and becomes more known, is to build our own fan base. But that's quite tough.
You mentioned that Chichester had over 1,000 people when they played Liverpool in the FA Cup. The challenge, I guess, then is to keep those fans coming back, and how you achieve that.
Definitely. I mean, Chichester are not going to have 1,300 people at their games week in, week out. But the trick for me is if you have a very supportive men's club and you have a very supportive local community. I mean that in terms of businesses. So, for example, if you look at Chichester, I mean the local bus company were promoting the game on a board in all of the buses, which is a fantastic way to advertise the game to the local community. I mean, it's about how well you can promote that and start to build that fan base. But it's going to take time. It's going to take time.
Do you have ideas at your clubs where you think, right, there's an initiative that we want to use because this is going to get people to come in and get involved?
Well, at the moment we're trying to start, like we said, trying to introduce girls to football, and the first thing to do regarding that is to try and get them to see the games. Me and Charlie have we're a big part of the foundation at Whiteleaf. So what we've tried to do is on soccer schools and things like that, we've tried to encourage or to give free tickets away, offer girls free entries to all our games, which we've had a massive increase onto our soccer schools with that, and also coming down to watch the games, which is brilliant. So we've basically just started to run a Tuesday night club for girls only, which has taken off brilliantly in the last few weeks. So it's something that we want to keep going, and we think that's a real good way at this moment in time, is to introduce new people into football and then hopefully start watching our team in that way.
Curtis, would you expect, and do you get support from the men's team?
In terms of the people at the club that run the men's side?
The marketing side of it, and perhaps shared initiatives to increase attendance?
Yeah, the first thing that was discussed when I actually took over at Worthing was between myself, George, Calvin, who does a lot of work there, and Cam Morrison, who was the ladies manager when I took over. And every discussion that we had when I first came in was about how can we bring these two sides together, and how can we push ourselves forward as one club and one vision. I know Remy said it earlier, and I couldn't agree more. I don't look at it as men's football and women's football. Football is football. I mean, probably speak on behalf of everyone in the room, I'm absolutely obsessed with the game. Whether it's American football, whether it's Scottish football, whether it's English football, men's, women's, I want to watch it. I want to understand what's going on. I want to learn from it. And I think it's just a matter of, can we get other people to love the women's game as much as they might love the men's game? Because football's football. It doesn't matter what your gender is. How can we get that idea across? How can we promote that well? But for me, it needs to be natural. I think sometimes you might be able to focus too much on strategies and how can we push the women's game, how can we push it. Is football. Let's push football. Not women's football, let's push football.
I completely agree with that, and I'm a season ticket holder at Crystal Palace, and part of their promotion of the women's game is to offer, discounted tickets at Bromley and both at Selhurst Park. I went to the FA Cup last year and they played Charlton, so there's a bit of rivalry there. It's a great game, fantastic, and I think some people's hesitation with women's football is that, is it as meaty as a man's game? Is there tackles? Is it delicate? And you get why there is that perception, but it was everything and more you could want in a game of football. There was that rivalry on the pitch. There was some great tackles. There were some fantastic goals. So Palace doing that for their ladies is fantastic. I also think things that I like about Palace is that they've also got two mascots. They've got a lady mascot and they've got a man mascot. A lot of clubs don't bother with mascots, but a lot of them are just, Reggie the Red or, Fred the Red. They're not, promoting a girl in that sense, and that's something that I like about Palace. And even down to the cheerleaders, there's something about that club that's completely, gender fluid, and I don't know. It's just, it's a club close to my heart, so I'm going to have those biases. But it's just little things that I think clubs can do to kind of make the perception of women in the game and the affiliates to it a lot more welcomed.
Speaking of Crystal Palace, sorry to butt in.
Don't.
No, it was just more talking about the whole cheerleaders thing, because obviously there's a whole thing in F1 recently about having the girls do flash all the cards and things. And then Crystal Palace came under some scrutiny as well as to whether they should have cheerleaders. What are the thoughts on that?
Can I just say before that this is producer Luke, who's just come in and
sorry, everyone.
decided he's going to have an opinion, which is great.
No, I think whatever you're passionate about, you should do it. And cheerleading is a sport, and why shouldn't they be able to get their pom-poms out and do it? If men wanted to do it, they should do it as well. But I think it's something that it's looked at in a bad way because of the sexual connotations to it, and it shouldn't be. It's a sport. These people are professional. They're there because they want to be there. No one's saying you've got to be there. It's a choice. It's a choice to get involved with football. It's a choice to whatever career path you take. And I think the more that we can embrace, all gender and involve them in any way that works, I think it's a good thing.
My mind was just going there to when you look at teams' websites. You mentioned Crystal Palace, and we're really trying to talk now about this is something that I guess frustrates me when you go onto teams' websites. You've got your under-18s, you've got your development, your academy teams. They're all affiliates, if you like, of the main team. But surely when you go onto a website, it shouldn't be a drop down to the ladies' team. It should be the men's and the ladies.
Absolutely agree. But again, I think it's just the pace of change, Ben. I think that will again change over time. But there are some fantastic examples of clubs really trying to create that equality between their men's and females. So I mean, if you go down to the Goldstone ground, sorry, not the Goldstone ground, the Amex at Brighton, on the side of the stadium is a huge photo of both the men's captain and the ladies' captain side by side. If you look at Crystal Palace now, there is a huge amount of joint marketing that goes on. So I think, Ben, there are examples where men's, not just professional clubs, but non-league clubs are now recognising that that's a very, very powerful formula to take forward, where they promote the women's teams alongside the men's teams. As I said, Palace is an excellent example of that. But it will take time for that to change. I mean, there was times in the past where the women's teams were not even represented on the main club websites. Back to my point before, it started, but you can have the name, but you can have nothing else.
What about that? So we look at social media and Reading, for example, one of those teams that are in the Women's Super League. They promote their women's team, and if you look at their Twitter banner, it's 2 male players, 2 female players, and that's what they go with on their main Twitter for their football club account. Why are we seeing some teams doing it and some teams not? And I guess one of the biggest elephants in the room is the most famous probably football club in the world, and certainly the most famous football club in England doesn't have a ladies team. How is that even possible in 2018?
Well, my betting that's probably going to change next season. I would be very surprised if that doesn't. But I think that's a very, very good point. Again, I think it's just going to take time. But it will happen in my view. I don't know what the guys think.
I'm not sure it will happen. I think if they were going to do it, they would have done it by now. It's not like they don't have enough money to do it. They could do it, but I don't think they want to do it. I don't think we'll see Man United have a women's team. I really don't.
Isn't that sort of unimaginable that the biggest club in England? And isn't that not a problem for women's football?
It's a problem, but it's not happened, has it? It's not happened.
Is there a reason why? Has there ever been a statement from the club to say why there is no women's side?
Adam, I think this is your cue to write to Manchester United and ask for a detailed explanation as to why they don't have a women's team.
I think if you find, I think it's part of the when the Glaziers took over. I think they had a certain way that they wanted to run the club, and I think that if I might be wrong in saying this, but I think when they come in, they were the ones who decided that they weren't going to go ahead doing it. I think if you look at that team now, it's just built on making money. And I think if it's not quick and it's not a lot of revenue as quickly as possible, then I think they're just a club that simply won't do it. I'll just back in what Charlie's saying.
But I think it's going to become increasingly socially unacceptable for a club of that level and that status not to be embracing the women's game. And I think the longer that goes on, the more the social media storm will build around that. And it may be that eventually they bow to pressure, but I'd be very surprised if they don't do it.
I think so, because they're a club that get behind a lot of campaigns in football, like industry issues, racism campaigns, and all of those sorts of things that the Premier League are actively involved in. So, sexism has been historically an issue, and maybe it is something that will come to surface. But
when you pay players £200,000 a week. If you don't pay one player for 1 week £200,000, think the amount that could do for Manchester United's women's team. It's crazy. It's such a small percentage of Manchester United's revenue could lead to having quite a successful women's team. So it really is amazing they haven't got one.
If they do have a team, I wonder if they'll be straight into the Women's Super League. From a team that aren't doing anything for women's football to one that have done an awful lot this season. I spoke to Stuart, who is the Lewis chairman, about the equality that is going on at their club and how both the men and ladies team have the same budget this season. Two sides to the club at the moment, which is the real exciting thing, competing in the Women's Premier League South and not far off the top of the table. It's exciting times for the club in both men's and women's football. We're obviously talking a lot about the women's game tonight, and you must be delighted with the progress that the women's team are making. Yeah,
indeed. I think it was we took a step into the unknown in the summer with the pay equality, and what we've seen is we've been able to grow the squad, and we've got some fantastic players in there. But it's really the performances on the pitch that have been really good, because we've been challenging teams that in the past we haven't really had we haven't really been on the same playing field as them.
And tell me how when the work started and how difficult it was. I mean, obviously the gender pay and no inequality being at your club, you decided to pay both the men and the women the same. That must have been a really well thought out process and something that you had in mind for a while.
Yeah, I mean, we started the thinking behind that back in October 2016. We looked at what it would take, what we thought it would take to be able to compete. Just to clarify, what we do is budget parity, not necessarily pay parity. So the difference between the two is that on pay parity, we say that we'll pay player the same irrespective of gender, whereas what we've got is the two managers of our senior teams have exactly the same budget. So how they spend that budget is up to them. So we may have some players who are on maybe £30-40 a week, and we may have some who are on a couple of hundred. So it's how we went about this and planned this is we really sort of asked the question, okay, what do we think it will take for us to be successful, for both teams to be successful in their respective leagues? And we came up with some numbers. We worked out whether that was possible, what we would do, how we would need to get commercial partners involved, and what the return on investment would be for them. And last year we went for it, and the media coverage has been fantastic, and it's enabled us to bring in partners like Skins, for instance. Brighton Hove Buses are a massive follower of the club and have done loads of work around their sort of equality programs as well. So they're a really good partner to be with.
And you've got facilities that you share with between the men's and the women's team. How does that work together?
So right the way through from backroom staff. So for example, our physio we have the same physio for the men's team and for the women's team. So she knows all of the players. We've got a 3G training facility which is next door to the Dripping Pan, and the teams get equal amount of time. And obviously we both play on the first team pitch, so everything is shared. All the facilities, all of the training, all of our scouting networks. We allocate scouts based on who needs them. All those little things, and there's also a fantastic crossover of support between the players. And you'll often see on Twitter on a Saturday where if the men's have had a good result, you'll see some of the women's players tweeting the players saying fantastic, great result and everything like that. And you'll see the men doing exactly the same.
And there's 4 teams as well in the women's section. The first team development, the girls' academy as well. So that must be exciting to have that strength on the women's side.
Yes, yeah. I mean, we've spent a lot of time developing the pathway, and we're now starting to see the fruits. We're starting to see some of the players who have played for the club for a number of years starting to come through and starting to push for first team places, which is fantastic. This year in the County Cup, we've used a sort of squad system rather than a first team system, and we're in the final of that competition.
It's a really exciting time, and you've got on Sunday you play Leicester City women in the FA Women's Premier League semi-final. So how do you fancy your chances in that one?
Oh, very much. We're very confident. We beat Leicester City in the semi-final of the plate competition last year, which we went on to win by beating Huddersfield. So yeah, we're confident. What's one of the frustrations we've had is real sort of lack of consistent game time this year. I mean, bizarre thing is we've played one league game since the end of November because of the cup competitions and because of the bad weather. So it's been quite difficult. So what John Donaghy, the manager, has been able to do is where we've had games off, we've been able to arrange friendlies. So we've played a couple of the Super League teams in friendlies, or we've played a couple of the local teams just to try and keep the match practice up.
And what does the future hold for women's football at the club?
I think that there's a number of things on the horizon. We're still waiting to see how the whole Super League Tier 2 will pan out, and we're putting in place a number of structures and a number of platforms that's going to enable us as a club to keep on growing on the women's side. We're certainly just things like the level of fitness and the level of smartness, I would say, in the women's game is improving almost month by month.
Have your say. Get in touch on social media. Just search official BOTN.
It really was such a great interview to listen to with Stuart Fuller, who's the chairman at Lewes. He speaks with such passion about the collaboration between the men's and the ladies' side. Some of the things that he mentioned, the scouts, who it's based on who needs them. They share scouts, they share physios, they share equal amount of training time, they have the same budgets. What a breath of fresh air, Paul, to have a story like Lewes this season.
Ben, I mean, I'm a great advocate of what's happening at Lewes Football Club. I think they are absolutely getting so many things right there. I mean, whoever came up with the equality campaign either should be made a dame or should be made a knight. I mean, it's been an absolute marketing coup for that club, and has created international attention, as was said. So some fantastic things going on that club, but like every other club, they will have their growing pains. There's no question about that. They are an ambitious club, but they will have their growing pains like all of us do. No different. I
guess the one that, not a criticism of course, but the one thing that has been said is the likes of Chelsea, Arsenal, Manchester City, Liverpool couldn't do the same that Lewes has done and give the same budget to the ladies team.
Well, again, I think it's a very good marketing. I mean, we talk about budget parity versus player parity, and they've gone for budget parity. You're absolutely right. It probably would be a step far too far at the most senior levels of the game at the moment. But what Lewes is doing is putting this absolutely on the map, and it's another huge change agent for the women's game. It's a very public statement around equality, and exactly what Remy's saying, and what Curtis is saying. Football is football. And women, deserve to be, applauded for the sort of technical. I mean, they do exactly the same as men. They train hard, they develop. So there's a massive argument for equality. It's just going to take time.
Remy, I love the comment that you made about the women's, how they've got the unity between men and the women's teams, and the women that are tweeting the male players, congratulating them, and vice versa after games.
Oh yeah, massive part of it. It should happen. You're all one club at the end of the day. It doesn't matter if you're part of the academy, the under-18s, whatever arm of the club you are. You're still one club, and you should pull your resources together. You should have the same resources to train, the same backroom staff, the same opportunities. And if Lewis could be the start of this happening for other clubs, and clubs later down the line mirroring this, it's only going to massively benefit the women's game.
And is this the final point on Manchester United? Is this them missing a real trick here, when you could have the likes of their players, the Juan Matas of this world, and the Lukakus and the Martials actually tweeting ladies players and vice versa? What that would do for A, the women's game, and B, the football club?
God, just massive. Like, it would promote it so much. Like, it'd be invaluable. Just 2 seconds of that person's time, send out a tweet, or even the stealth media company behind running their accounts, whoever it is. That small bit of marketing for a small club and a niche market and a growing market, it would be absolutely invaluable.
Get your thoughts into us on official BOTN. We don't have a stealth media company running our accounts. It's Adam Wilmot, and he'll get your tweets and read them out between now and 9 o'clock. Right now we're going to play Super Sub, the feature that we do every week. Really interesting tonight, is we're going to put Curtis up against one of his players, and Millie Colbrand will be on the phone shortly. Curtis, we're going to let you play first. We don't dim the lights or anything, but what we do is we do make it a little bit tense for you. I'm sure you've heard Super Sub, you know the rules. All you got to do is substitute the correct answer for anything that isn't the correct. It's simple, it really is easy. We're going to start the clock, and your time to beat, if you want to go top of the leaderboard, is 42 seconds. Corey Davidson with an impressive score, and if you want to stay off the bottom, we think that Jack Corley from Heybridge Swift is always going to be bottom. He did it in 1 minute and 54 seconds, so huge difference there. Are you comfortable with the rules?
Yeah, I'm comfortable. Not sure if I'm so confident, but I've got one victory in the bag tonight, and I'll take it into this one.
Can we set now that if you, perhaps there's a forfeit here, forfeit for the players if you win, and if Millie wins, then a forfeit for you next training session?
Yeah, I mean, I think the best way to do this is, whilst I'm participating in the quiz and whilst Millie's going through it, maybe you guys can think of a consequence for us. Try to keep it quite nice, because obviously there's a good chance I could lose here. So
I'd love to help you out, Ben, but with that earlier comment, I don't know what you think, chaps. I think.
Okay, let's get on with Super Sub, and your time to substitute the correct answer for any incorrect one starts now. The London Stadium is the home ground of which Premier League team?
Liverpool.
Name the club who has won the Charity Shield the most times.
West Ham.
Genus, Pennant and Defoe all share the first name of what?
Lloyd.
What colour is the cross on our national team's emblem?
Green.
Jurgen Klopp is the manager of which team?
Man City.
Who is the footballing dad of Brooklyn, Cruz, Romeo and Harper?
Ryan Giggs.
What does the R in VAR stand for?
Referee.
Need another answer.
Review.
How many clubs compete in the Championship?
27.
What footwear does a footballer wear on the pitch?
High heels.
This year's World Cup will be held in which country?
England.
Okay, stop the clock there. How did you find it?
Well, it's one of those things where you think, actually, do you know what? I think I'll be alright at this, but I had that little wobble in the middle with the referee. It's just in my head and I just couldn't get it out.
It's harder than it sounds, that challenge.
It really is. I'd love to see you lot have a go at this, but hopefully we can get that done another show and get a video sent in.
One of my favourite answers, and this is exactly what this feature does to you, is how many clubs compete in the Championship. Now, you could have had any number in the whole world, but you paused and you went for 27. And it was almost as if you wanted so much to say 24, but you just, I'll just go a little bit over.
Yeah, it was toying with me, that one. It's really difficult when you're actually sitting there and doing it. It's just, all that's going through your head is 24, 24, 24, 24.
Can I also ask where Lloyd came from?
I honestly have no idea. I was thinking of Lloyd Doyley from former Watford player. No idea.
And Ryan Giggs again. It's one of those things. It's what the game does to you. It makes you think of the correct answer and say, instead of anyone in the world, it was somebody so close to David Beckham, opposite side of the pitch, played together for years and years, and you went for Giggs.
Yeah, I think natural psychology is what's the next link to the right answer. I went Manchester United and I thought, who plays for Manchester United? I couldn't even think. I was just like, oh my God. Like you said, one of the biggest clubs in the world, and I'm sitting here, can't name a single person that's been associated with the club.
I can tell you that you're not bottom.
Oh, thank God.
You're not in the Champions League spots either.
No.
You did it in 52 seconds, and you're in 9th position. It's not a bad effort. There are now 20 of you on the leaderboard, so 9th is top half.
Yeah, I mean, I'll take it. A little bit disappointed in myself that I got one of them wrong. But yeah, like I said, it is really, really difficult when you actually do it. The only thing that's kind of making me feel better about myself, and I don't want to speak too soon, is Millie's got to do it as well. So
I think for you tonight, the leaderboard is one thing, but it's all about the win on the day. It's about the game in front of you. And Millie is up next, and we'll see how she does. And we will think of a forfeit, and we'll come back after this.
You're listening to Back of the Net, powered by Promote UK. We're really good at what we do.
Times are changing. We now live in a digital world where 9 out of 10 people use the internet to look for local goods and services. Whether in front of a computer at home or on a mobile phone on the go, people expect to find what they want, when they want, quickly and easily. The question is, can your business be found? At Promote UK, we specialise in getting local businesses found online. One highly affordable package will give your business a stunning mobile responsive website, which we guarantee to get to the first page of Google and keep it there. And we take care of everything: copywriting, design, hosting. We even offer unlimited amends all year round for no extra charge. So, whilst you're busy focusing on your business, we're busy making sure it can be found online all year round. Start your Google Page One journey today with a free online health check by visiting promoteUKLimited.com. Promote UK. We're really good at what we do.
From Premiership to Playground, MH Goals has everything you need for an outstanding football match, including aluminium and steel football goals, nets, line marking machines, team shelters, boot wipers, and much more. Buy with confidence direct from the manufacturer with great prices available across our whole range of sports equipment. What's more, we offer fantastic discounts for all FA affiliated clubs. We pride ourselves on British manufacturing. We make all our football goals here in the UK and conform to the latest British and European safety standards. So call MH Goals direct on 01502 711 298 or visit our online store at mhgoals.com.
Are you a budding footballer sitting your GCSEs next summer, wondering what to do next? Want to play football while studying for qualifications that will get you into university? Dorking Wanderers Football Club are now recruiting for their football academy for 2018-2019. Based at their brand new state-of-the-art Meadowbank Stadium, you'll be playing in the National Conference Youth Alliance against the best clubs in the area each week, as well as the prestigious FA Youth Cup. You'll be studying BTEC Level 3 qualifications, equivalent to 3 A-levels, alongside professional coaching from our UEFA qualified coaches. For information on trials and open evenings, visit dorkingwanderers.com/academy or email academy@dorkingwanderers.com.
Head to backofthenetsouth.co.uk tomorrow morning for video highlights and full match reaction of today's games. Back to your favourite non-league football show, powered by Promote UK. We're really good at what we do. Back of the Net, where it matters.
So welcome back to tonight's show. We're talking all about women's football this evening. We've got a very nervous Curtis in the studio, who's just played Super Sub, 9th in the leaderboard right now. But the most important thing is that he wins tonight's game. Tonight's game is against one of his players at Worthing, which is Millie Cole-Brand. Millie, very good evening to you.
Hiya.
Now, Millie, before we get into Super Sub tonight, I want to ask you a little bit about Curtis as a manager. Do all the players like him? He's not listening. We've got headphones on. It's fine.
Yeah, he's really good.
Is he better than your last manager?
Yeah, I mean, he's brought the team together a lot, and now we're all like celebrating together, and it feels like a better vibe, and it's a better atmosphere within the team.
Because he can't hear, what's the one thing? What's the most obviously a great manager, and you all like him, but what's the one thing is his worst thing? What's the one thing you all moan about?
He's a good wind-up. Like, he knows how to wind you up a treat, and he just doesn't live it. He doesn't let you live it down.
And perhaps he might not let you live this down if you don't beat him. So, did you hear his version of Super Sub?
Did I hear it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I did.
Okay, so you know what to expect. You know what you've got to do, and you need to beat. How many seconds was it?
52 to beat Curtis.
52 seconds beats Curtis. I think that's all that you need to know. Did we come up with a forfeit? Are we doing the what are we doing? The breakfast one?
In terms of if Millie beats me, I would be more than happy to stand in the middle of that goal at Woodside Road and let every single one of those belt balls at me, because it's fully deserved if I get beaten. As for Millie's consequence, it will be something related to that final that we've got coming up, and it might be something that she might have to do before the game or at half-time to the crowd. So good luck, Millie.
Okay, brilliant. And the costume will be ordered later. Right, so
my money's on Millie.
Yeah, so Millie, are you feeling confident, Millie?
Yeah, a little bit.
Brilliant. Okay, right. Let's make this a little bit more interesting. Let's set the mood, and your time to substitute the correct answer for any wrong answer starts now. The London Stadium is the home ground of which Premier League team?
Tottenham.
Name the club who has won the Charity Shield the most times.
Brighton.
Genus, Pennant and Defoe all share the first name of what?
Margaret.
What colour is the cross on the national team's emblem?
Purple.
Jurgen Klopp is the manager of which team?
Brighton.
Who is the footballing dad of Brooklyn, Cruz, Romeo and Harper?
Raheem Sterling.
What does the R in VAR stand for?
Rank.
How many clubs compete in the Championship?
2000.
What footwear does a footballer wear on a pitch?
Sliders.
This year's World Cup will be held in which country?
Pakistan.
Stop the clock. There we go. Right. I've got a feeling that you might be in a bit of trouble there, Curtis, but we will get the did you find that easy, Millie?
I missed her.
Yeah, it was tips.
Yeah, you seem pretty fluent at it. You didn't really pause at any time. We're just going through your answers now to get your time. I've got a feeling that Curtis is going to be standing in that goal with balls booted at him. I think the team will enjoy that, won't they?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, Millie, let's go through a few of your answers to start with. The club that has won the Charity Shield the most times, Brighton. Are you a Brighton fan?
No, but I follow them.
Okay. Margaret was a brilliant name for Genus, Pennant and Defoe. Like that one. What else did we have in here? Rank for VAR. Well, there would be a few people that agreed with you. It has not done particularly well. It's had lots of criticism. And 2,000, see, this is what I'm talking about, Curtis. 2,000 teams in the Championship. You hesitated and went for 27.
I mean, like I said, I lost my head at the time, and I've certainly lost my head now. I'm a little bit more nervous than I'm looking, I think. But yeah.
Millie, we're celebrating women's football tonight, International Women's Day tomorrow. I can tell you that you are in the top half of the table tonight with your score. We've got 21 people that have now competed. You're in the top half of the table. I can tell you that Curtis is going to have balls booted at him because you are in the Champions League spots. And I can tell you that you are top of our leaderboard. You did it in 40 seconds, which is absolutely brilliant. And unfortunately, Corey Davidson, you are no longer top. Millie, what a brilliant, brilliant effort that is. 40 seconds.
Congratulations.
How do you feel about booting these balls, and how will your teammates feel when they get to do that? When is the next training session?
Next Thursday. So I think what I'll probably be doing in between, I've advised them to try and get together tomorrow night to do a session together, see if they can do some sort of fitness work, because we haven't got access to the ground. So what I'm sure they will be doing is trying to find a facility together. I'm sure they're happy to all chip in where they can practice some shooting. Yeah, and I think they'll enjoy it for the next 6 days whilst they line me up.
Millie, can you do us a favour, please? When this happens next Thursday, can you just make sure that somebody has their mobile phone, and can you video it for us and then send it to us or tweet us in it, and we'll put it out because we really want to see it. Millie, fantastic score. Well done. Best of luck for the rest of the season.
Thank you.
And thanks for coming on the show.
Thanks, guys. Have a lovely evening.
We will do. Millie Colbrand. Wow, what an effort. 40 seconds. Curtis, you really got shown up there.
Yeah, well, as all of those in the studio know, those that are watching probably don't. In between the break, I did say to them that Millie was one of the most intelligent people I knew. I don't know why I picked her. Yeah, it was a big bad decision from me, but I mean, yeah, we'll see. Good luck to her, and she deserved it. But well done, Millie. You've done really well.
Yeah, brilliant effort tonight, and brilliant that she should go top of the leaderboard. And I think that 40 seconds is really going to take some beating. Could be at the top of our leaderboard in the summer. When's the cut-off point? Are we cutting it off for the season in the summer?
No, we're just going to keep going with the shows. We've now got a Super Sub Championship table. So unfortunately, Jack Corley, he was relegated tonight with Millie's and Curtis's scores. So let's start the championship and let's get some of these players relegated.
I think what we'll do is we will continue it in through, as you said, but I think we should award something to the person that's top at the end of the season.
At the end of the season, we'll do something for sure.
And Millie, that could well be
very
you.
Impressive timing.
Maybe the winner should get to kick balls at those in the studio.
So plenty more to talk about this evening. We're talking all about the women's game. We've got 15 minutes left, and we've opened up Twitter for you to comment on. Adam, we've had a few questions in on Twitter for us in the studio. Plenty of people getting involved in the debate. It's official BOTN on social media as well.
Yeah, we've had some great interaction tonight. We've had a question in asking, do Lewis, Worthing and Whiteleaf have plans to start a youth section of their ladies' teams?
Good question.
It's something we're discussing. As Harry said earlier, we've got a Tuesday night session for girls only. I think next season we're going to start with our first girls team. I think we're starting an under-10s team. So hopefully that will be the catalyst for us to slowly add more teams to the club as we go along. We've got a lot of boys teams. We've got about 19 boys teams. So space is slightly limited, but it's something that we would like to do. And definitely next season, Whiteleaf ladies will have an under-10s team.
Paul, how hard is it to start additional teams, or does it just happen naturally?
No, Ben, it is very challenging. I mean, we have a very strong and successful youth structure, and we put a hell of a lot of focus into getting that structure as professional as we can get it, to put as much around the youth players as we can, and they certainly sit alongside in parity with the priority that we place on the ladies' game, because the heart of our club is our youth section. I mean, it's fundamentally important to have a successful senior team and senior section, but the youth section is hugely important. So it's something we're very, very proud of, but we do have gaps, Ben, and it is challenging trying to fill those gaps. But again, it's back to the message earlier on, which is around, if you're a successful club, you've got a good product, you advertise it well, and most importantly, that you create a fun and safe environment, because safeguarding is the number one priority for all clubs. If you can create that environment, you've got a very good chance of a successful youth structure.
The FA recently said they wanted to double the participation in the game in 2020. Is that a realistic target? Does more money and need to be put in if that's going to be achieved?
I mean, that's 6,000 to 12,000 teams, which is a big step in 3 years. I don't know what the guys think. Views?
I mean, in terms of us setting up a youth section, we'd be the same. Absolutely, that's our plan. But the most important thing for me is, yes, we want to raise participation, but I and George, who have sat down and had discussions about this, we want to make sure we do it in the right way. So let's raise participation and be able to offer an attractive package for people to want to represent our club, to want to participate. Let's not do something that's going to potentially break down after one season and won't have a pathway. Let's create something which is a project, it's united, and it will be long-term standing.
I mean, our ambition, Ben, over the next 3 to 5 years is to have a youth team at every age, and we've set that as a very clear objective for the club, and a lot of effort and a lot of activity is going on at the moment to create that. We've recently been successful in creating a mini kickers, which is a sort of age 5 upwards. We've just started a new under-11s team this year, and that's absolutely fantastic to watch. It's one of the most, I mean, I play 2 roles, one is chairman and one is first team manager, but one of the most motivating things is on a Sunday morning to see our new under-11 team play, and the joy that they get from that, and the joy that the parents get, it's what it's all about. It's fantastic.
Adam, we've had another question in on social media too.
Yep, had another good question in from Twitter. The listener wants to know, what's the biggest difference between the female and male game? The biggest difference
on the pitch. On the pitch.
He hasn't specified on the pitch, but
Okay.
we'll go with on the pitch.
I think on the pitch, I think it's if you break the game into different aspects, I think it's the physical aspect. I think if you go and watch our first team and you go and watch our ladies' first team, not the aggressiveness of it, but the physical nature of the game, the power that the men can generate is different. But I think that's biologically down to a difference in their makeup. But I don't think I think my players are as aggressive as the men players. I think that's normal. But
that's a good answer.
Romy, we're going to move on to our final points now, and one of the things I wanted to ask was, we've talked all evening about the involvement and how you should get involved in sport, especially women in football. For you getting involved in the media side of it, what was your biggest inspiration for wanting to get involved, and why should someone do that, whether it's in the media, refereeing or playing?
So for me, I'm one of my dad's first two children were both girls. We're only 10 months apart, born in the same year, so very full on for my parents. They didn't know what flavour I would be. I came out, I was a girl. My dad was a bit like, I really want a boy. So my sister did the route of ballet, girly things, shopping. I was Rem, let's start a rock band and play football. And I'm so grateful that I had that. From my dad. He's been massively involved with football. He's still playing now. He's massively supported it. And for me, joining broadcasting was kind of combining that love of music with football, and this was the route that I took, and it was something that we started years ago now, and we started it off as a commercial football show, as those who have followed Back of the Net since it was born know, but we very quickly changed our target market to the non-league niche, and we've grown it from there. And for us and for me, it's given these clubs a platform to showcase their success, showcase their talent, and just really promote it. So for me, it's kind of that addictive feeling that you get when you get an extra follower, or you get more listeners, or you get a rapport with a club that you didn't have before. And it's ticking all those boxes and growing the clubs as well as growing ourselves. So that's where my interest stems in. I absolutely love football. It's been a massive part of my upbringing. I used to play. I got injured when I was 13. I thought, I'm not a good player anymore. Probably wasn't ever, but I loved it and I wanted to be part of it. So yeah, Back of the Net for me is how I've got into that, and I'd encourage any girl to if you're into it, then follow it, do it. Don't be put off by it being a male-dominated industry, because there are plenty of women in football, and it's only going to grow. Even on commercial platforms like BT and Sky Sports, you see women, and it's not unnormal anymore. And it will be the same in the non-league, and it will be same in the league, and it will definitely filter down. So go for it, give it a go.
And Harry, it follows in quite nicely the confidence that players have. Is that something that you have to work on extra in the women's team? We see a lot of male team, and perhaps the confidence and maybe even right to say arrogance levels are quite high, and sometimes in the male teams at certain ages you have to almost put their feet on the ground and say, look, you're not quite Lionel Messi yet. Is it the opposite in the women's team?
I think it's very much that you need to get to it, especially in the girls' team. I think you need to get to know your players quite more quicker than you would with a boys' team. Because I don't think when you first go in, I think girls are reluctant to say what's wrong or what they want to improve in. So I think that's a big part of it, is to make sure that you get to know your players quite quickly. When you get to know them quickly and you relax them and you get comfortable with them, I think that's when you can really start asking them what they want to achieve in football, what they want to improve in, etc. And I think once that occurs, then it's an opportunity to take it forward within the coaching sense. So I think definitely within girls football, it's really important to make sure that you get to know your players quickly in order to make them succeed at the highest possible level.
Paul, I had a coach recently say to me that one big difference between male and female teams is that with the ladies teams, you tell them something once and they do it, whether that's tactical, formation, whatever it might be. You have to explain it to them and they just go and do it.
Yeah, I'd agree with that, actually. I would agree with that. I think with certainly in our ladies first team, we not just on the pitch, but whether or not we're at training or whether or not we're doing pre-match preparation, we expect those ladies to be focused. And what you tend to find in the women's game at the moment is that, that's probably why I have a preference working in the ladies' game, having myself been a sort of semi-professional footballer, is there is not the level of ego that exists within the men's game. Yes, you do have characters as you would expect. You have all sorts of diversity, but you don't have the ego. You don't have the huge personalities that perhaps sometimes frequent male dressing rooms, and therefore, I think as a consequence of that, you can get the focus of the ladies. And I'd say I really sincerely hope it stays like that, Ben. I think as more and more money comes into the game, I'm hoping that doesn't drive the egos in the women's game and actually sort of break that down.
Finally tonight, an opportunity for you guys. Obviously, plenty of people listening to get involved with the clubs. Is it easy to, if you're a budding player that's listening in the age groups that you are all coaching? Is it a simple case of come along and come for a trial and join the teams, and if it's not your teams, then there's other teams like your youth teams that people can get involved in?
Yeah, I mean, we're always open to new players. I'm sure these guys would say the same. And if it's a case of us not being able to facilitate due to extensive numbers at one particular team, like we've mentioned before, we've only got a first team at the moment in the ladies' side. So the next best process for us to be, or for me myself to be, would be actually, look, here's your alternative options. If it's not our club, there are still other clubs that you can go and represent, you can go and play for. And I think the most important thing is actually making people aware that there are so many growing women's clubs out there that there are other opportunities, and I think it's just about showing them that opportunity.
Yes, certainly with our own club. I mean, as was said, Charlie was saying, 2-year-old club. We're last season we celebrated our 25th anniversary as an independent all girls and ladies club. This is our 26th year, so we have a lot of experience to draw upon. We do have a very strong youth section, and we do everything we can to make that open for business continuously, including running sessions for youngsters all the way through the year. We don't switch off at end of season. We run it all the way through, because if you can do that, you increase your opportunity to bring those youngsters in.
And for you at Whiteleaf, obviously an exciting time, new team. So to get involved there, there's never been a better opportunity in the area.
Yeah, I mean, I think in our area there's not loads of women's first teams, and myself and Harry were always open to people coming to training, to trial for the team, and if we can't fit that player in and it's not a good fit for them, then we'll look in the local area and we'll try and get them into football, because it's just important that they're playing football, and if they enjoy playing football, then we want them to play football. That's the main thing, I think.
Thank you ever so much for coming in tonight. It's been a brilliant debate on women's football. You can check it out all again on our YouTube channel. That'll be up tomorrow. So my big thanks to Curtis, Charlie, Harry and Paul for coming in. Best of luck to all of you for the rest of the season. Big thank you to Remy on the panel tonight. Plenty more to come from us. The Bostik League show is back at the weekend. Sunday you can get the full highlights as Brightlingsea go up against Dulwich Hamlet, still chasing for that title, and of course goals from across the Premier Division as well. We'll be back next Wednesday with another show, same time of 7 o'clock.
For the best highlights from across the Bostik Leagues, visit youtube.com/backofthenet.